All right. You ready to rock? Cool, yo. So do y'all know what you showed up here for? Or did Nsuani just say, come here? You guys owe me. Do you guys know what you showed up here for? Live podcast. Okay, that was one part. Does anyone else know what else is happening here tonight? Panel discuss. Are you a part of the panel discussion? Okay, just want to make sure.
She got it though.
Okay, and then there's a little networking mix in, and we're gonna have food here as well. And we're gonna have mocktails because this is a health focused event.
Don't put that on
Mocktails, you know what I mean?
I
So
like to drink.
stick around. We're gonna have a good time, but we're gonna need some energy. Is that okay with everybody? Yes, sir. It's okay to clap. Yes, it's okay to make noise. We don't have to be too Canadian about this. You feel me? All right. Let's go. Okay. We recording, rolling. Okay. Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Three Questions Podcast. I'm your host, Kareem, the podcast where we sit down with some amazing people who are doing some amazing things. And that's right, we ask them 3 questions, sometimes 4, 5, 6, 7. I know, I read the questions, I read the comments. But rather than just talk about my guests, their wins or their successes, we start the conversation around their failures, more specifically, the lessons that they learned from those individual experiences. So, with that being said, my guest today is a health strategist and fitness entrepreneur. He works with the A-list type in the city. Any A-listers in here? Any A-list people in here? A-types, right? Like what's the guy's name? Bobby Axelrod from Billions. That show Billions, great show. He works with those type of people. He's also a loving husband, a father of 2 children. He's a family man, y'all. And he runs one of the best and hottest health fitness clubs in the city of Toronto. So, without further ado, please help me welcome Nsuani Baffoe.
I gotta take you everywhere with me. Everywhere I go before I enter the room. Just do that every time.
So, sir, is there anything I missed in that lightweight intro that I just gave you?
I would say I'm just a regular person.
Lies.
We'll get into it, but I think I'm a privileged person. I'm very blessed for the opportunity to have a great community. Mom Dukes is in the building. Great
Oh,
family.
Mom
Dukes.
Mom is in the building? What?
I was talking to Mom on the way over in traffic. Like, Mom, how you doing? She's like, I'm cool. I'm up to nothing tonight. And then she shows up. But I would say most of all, I'm just somebody that helps connect the dots really well. I was very fortunate to be in a household where we talk about health and medicine and food from a very young age. I started off in sports very young and excelled all the way to a scholarship level, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But then I'm also just regular dude from Rexdale, right? So sometimes when conversations are happening in the news and on all different levels, and it doesn't always feel like it's connected to us or it's relevant to us or people are speaking to us, I've just been very fortunate enough to connect the dots. So
Cool. I need you to focus on the mic, too.
I would, and I'm also following instructions, Corey. Very well. Corey's
Perfect.
a tough dude.
So, Nsuani, this is not your first time on the platform. You've been here, so you kind of know how this goes. For the people listening for the first time, I like to come out the gate swinging with a hard, deep question. So, Nsuani, I want you to tell me about a moment in your life that was a difficult moment or challenging where you faced a setback, a serious problem, situation. What was that problem? How did you overcome it? And most importantly, what did you learn from that experience?
Yeah, this is why we call you controversial, Corey. I thought we were going to start off with something a little lighter, Corey.
No soft questions here, sir.
I would say the most impactful moment and subsequent years of my life was in October 13th, 2005, 7:13 p.m. I played my last sporting event ever in my life. I broke my leg in a game in upstate New York. At the time, I was playing football for Western Pennsylvania. Last year, lots of promise, lots of hope. I don't think I would have made it to the league, but at least I had my own thoughts and my own journey and controlled my own destiny. But in that moment, my leg broke, and it was very impactful for many reasons. Mostly the loss of identity, I would say. I was in an opposing team stadium, so I had their medical staff, and they ran some tests, screens, MRI, X-ray, and they came back really quickly and were like, you're done. You know, UPS is hiring. Good luck, right? And I'm looking back on it, they weren't trying to be crass or mean. It's just kind of the matter-of-fact way that you go about medicine. But for me, that was like a door slamming on so many things. Most of all, my identity. And I would say when I was a football player or an athlete, that was kind of my guard to some of the temptation and some of the things I experienced growing up in Toronto. So, like, I smoked a little, I drank a little, but whenever the drugs and drinking got a little too crazy, I can always say, oh, I'm an athlete. I'm taking care of myself. I'm getting a scholarship. And if anyone grew up in the city, there's other pitfalls and trappings they can get into. But the older dudes would say, nah, he's good. Leave him alone. That's an athlete. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, that's gone.
Mm.
And then I'm thinking to myself, well, what do I do next? And on top of that, I'm dealing with physical pain. So I would say like that was probably the most defining moment in at least the last 30 years that allowed me to really shape my life and make some better decisions. Because break or no break, axe or no break, I wasn't on the right path. And looking back on it now, I can say that was a blessing in disguise, really.
Right. And so, is it safe to assume that if that event didn't happen, you wouldn't be
I'll be dead.
you'd be dead?
Yeah, I'll be dead for sure. Because the thing is with identities, it's not really who you are, it's who you choose to be.
Mm.
And although, as I mentioned, there were some benefits, there was also some arrogance that came with it. I worked out a lot. I trained. That was part of the job, but I didn't have any knowledge or respect for my body. During that time period, that was also the start of the opioid crisis, and it's the availability of the drugs. And we got tested for weed because we couldn't smoke, but I never saw a prescription for Vicodin or Percocet.
Mm.
I'm not saying there wasn't Vicodin or Percocet. I'm saying I never saw a prescription for it. So those patterns and the lifestyle that you get into, if I didn't have that hard stop, I know I wouldn't be sitting here today for sure.
Right. And you mentioned those type of drugs, which are very popular now. Did you have or any challenges with addiction?
Yeah, actually I did. So at first it was pain management. I had a surgery a couple of days past the break of my leg, and then they put some screws in some places in there. And about 2 months later, they went back in and made some changes. And I remember riding back from the States with my mom and dad, and I told myself, I'm not touching drugs. I'm not doing it. When the anesthesia wears off, I'm just gonna soldier this. And mom, I don't remember this. We were just getting to the border, and I was like, "Hey, mom, I might need that. I might need those drugs." And I went from I might need them to like
Mm.
screaming pain.
Oh wow.
And we had to pull over on the side of the road, go in the suitcase, get all that out. And I'm only speaking about that because there was a time when the drugs was pain management. There's no two ways about it. But eventually it starts going into, well, how do you feel? Like just getting up for the day.
Mm.
And then it gets into, I'm not feeling good about myself. So how can I feel better? And then you combine that with drinking, and really I was in depression. If I look back on it, it was probably at least 6 or 7 months post when I should have been off of those drugs that I was still taking them. And since you went in and you went hard right away,
I did.
I could tell you my breaking point. And not to be crass, it's the moment when I could not remember, and no word of a lie, I couldn't remember when I had a bowel movement. I couldn't
Mm.
remember if it was weeks or months, and that's when I was like, something's not right here.
Right.
Something with my system that I'm very disconnected from my body, which was impacting a lot of choices I made at the time.
So you see why we're calling this uncomfortable truths and uncomfortable conversations?
2 minutes in, I said bowel movement.
You know what? I was gonna skip to something else, but so I recently came across an IG inspo video that said the biggest risk to your future isn't your competition. It's the distractions we insist on keeping in our lives. People delay the things they don't like longer than it takes to do them. So when I heard that and I saw that, I thought about my own laziness, my own procrastination. So when it comes to our health and fitness, why do so many of us suck? And why do so many of us, fall off track or fail to be inconsistent? And what are some hacks we can do to help us to stay on track as well?
Yeah, that's a great question, especially this time of year. Statistically, something like 70, 80% of New Year's resolutions have already fallen off. I think the problem with resolutions or goals is that, first of all, it's how we set them,
Mm.
right? And a few of my colleagues are in the building. Thank you for coming out. We hear every day, every week, people saying, here's what I want to do. I want to gain some muscle. I want to lose some weight. I want to get back to doing the things I did when I was X years old. But we don't think about what that means as a fullness of our lifestyle. And I'll give you a point. Just this week, someone says, I want to lose 25 pounds. So my first question is, when did you last weigh the weight you wanted to? And when you listen to this person talk about that time period, they're talking about, more time to themselves,
Mm.
more freedom, whether or not they have a more demanding job now or family. maybe they're in a loving relationship, or maybe they were in, a time when they were looking and they were out and a lot more social. The weight is the weight. That's one thing on the scale, but it's the fullness of what it represents is really what that person's looking for. And when we go after something on the scale, or we're only outcome based, first of all, that puts you in a very narrow window for success. And often when you reach it, you might not be happy if you haven't examined all those other things that that number represents. So the first thing is just like, why do you want to do something? What is it about that number or that goal? And I know tonight we're going to hear from some of our other colleagues about money and success and wealth. Like, why? Why do you want to be a millionaire? Why not a multimillionaire? Or why not a 300,000aire, right? We have to really break those things down, because that's going to be the framework for your actions. And a lot of what I said about the past, looking at past mistakes, I'm air quoting, even though this is a podcast, but look at it from a learning point of view, right? So if I failed in the past at a goal, let's keep losing weight just for the sake of the conversation. What did I learn from the experience? Maybe I lost 10 pounds or 6 pounds or 12 pounds or no pounds at all. But what did I get out of that I can move forward? And I think what we tend to do in almost everything is we have something I call the violence of self-improvement. It's like, yes, I want to do something, but I'm going to 75 days hard, or I'm going to make sure that I never touch a drink again, or I'm never going to eat this is why? Like, how long you can do something that doesn't feel good, right? And I'm often hearing those things when people are motivated, but it's up to me as a professional to kind of break those things down and give people a strategy that can actually lead to success.
Right. So after determining the why, what would be step 2 or step 3?
Yeah, look at the plan of action. Mm-hmm. And like I was saying about looking at the past is a great teacher of the future. Mm-hmm. And if you look at, for example, keeping with weight loss, what worked well, what didn't? What I find with most people is that they set unrealistic schedule expectations. I'm going to go to the gym Monday through Saturday. I'm going to eat salad every day. I'm not going to drink. First of all, is that going to make you happy? Mm. Second of all, is that realistic in your setting? Depending if you work from home or where you work in the city, where your office is. Third of all, how are you going to get past Super Bowl without a drink? Right. How are you going to get past the Grammys and all the things that we need right now, as Christmas is so far past gone, and the snowbanks are out here like it's Sudbury, right?
This is making a lot of sense. It reminds me of the time I tried to start my diet in the summertime, and everyone's inviting me to barbecues. Jerk chicken. I'm Jamaican, so it's like it's real tough.
And that's what I mean. Like, just thinking about those things from I would say constructive mindset.
Yeah.
Like, do I want to go to a barbecue and have a burger with no bun? Absolutely not. So, is this the time to focus on that? Maybe, maybe not, but other things I can do, right?
Right.
So looking at that framework and saying what is actually realistic, and then there's something I call hugs and screws. Hugs, you go through 1 week, 2 weeks of doing everything you said you were going to do, showing up to your workouts, going for your walks. Then you look to increase from there. If you've fallen off, if you say I'm going to do 10 workouts this week and you do 1, that's when you want to make sure that you're giving yourself a little more love and support. We do things the other way around. Right? We have a good run. We're like, I'm great. Sure, I'll come to the bar with you. No, that may not be the time. Or if we fall off, I'm the worst person in the world. I can't do nothing right. Yeah. This is just one more thing I can't do. And that's just going to create patterns of failure. And we're not going to get ourselves out of that.
Yeah, I love that. Everyone getting some good gems out of this? Yeah. I love it.
I'm talking about someone like you. I'm not talking about you. Someone you might know, a cousin or a sister, an auntie or something.
Okay. So I want to kind of backtrack when you were talking about drugs for a second.
My mom's in the room, Corey. She's right there, Corey.
Well, Mom, you didn't know what you showed up to, right, Mom? I'm hoping you know. So every couple of years, there seems to be like a new health trend that has mixed reviews. Mm-hmm. So with that in mind, Ozempic has become quite popular over the last couple of years. What are your thoughts on its use as a weight loss drug? Are you for it or against it?
That is a big conversation. Let me collect my thoughts, make sure.
He doesn't want to ruin any potential sponsors, guys. So that's what he's like. Let me think about how to navigate this.
Present myself
just in case Big Pharma wants to sponsor me.
No, that won't be a thing. Okay, so first things first, it's a drug. And we need drugs in society. That's just how it goes. And there's a stigma against drugs like Ozempic. By the way, Ozempic is a brand. It's taken on a front running name the way Vaseline is. Like Vaseline is a brand. Petroleum jelly is the actual product, right? So what we're talking about here is semaglutides. So that could be Ozempic, it could be Wegovy, it could be there's another one on the market. There'll be plenty. Don't worry, they're all coming out soon enough. But when someone's taking a drug, you have to have respect that that's their medical personal scenario. I wouldn't have an opinion about someone taking blood pressure medication. If somebody had schizophrenia medication, I wouldn't be like, you should eat more vegetables. Like we do that sometimes, and we put ourselves in these mindsets that are just it's not fair to people, right?
Right.
In terms of what I'm seeing on a day-to-day basis, sometimes we need to take drugs, but no matter if it is Ozempic, Wegovy, and aspirin, I always try to say, make sure you're doing the steps that you need to have in case this drug wasn't available. So what a semaglutide does, it works on your neurotransmitters, which are signals to your brain. And for some people, that shows up in the feeling of satiety or fullness. So you tend to eat a little less or you have a little more portion control. For some people, it shows up in the ability to control insulin, which is very important in regulating blood sugar and digestion of things like carbohydrates and sugars. But you still need to take care of those things. Meaning if I'm overeating, right, the drug is not going to change that. It may quiet my hunger cue, but when I go off of the drug, I haven't cured that habit. And what I'm seeing with people in the gym space is when you're not eating because maybe your hunger cue is shortened, yes, you're going to lose weight, but you're probably going to lose muscle mass. And as we hit our 30s, I'm guessing this room, with the exception of some of the young bucks, once you start hitting your 30s, muscle mass is something that your body's actively trying to lessen because it's a very expensive tissue, for lack of a better word, right? Muscle requires, good eating, training, sleep, water. It works, it's great, but at some point your body's going to say, you know what? How can I reprioritize some of my resources and thus deprioritize others? Can I go on a little tangent there?
Go for it.
Okay, perfect. So if you think of it, from the time we hit adolescence to the time, we're in our whenever late 40s, 50s, that is like a big time for your body to procreate, especially if you think of it from a male's point of view. Like you could
shoot
mom,
your shot.
My mom is here. Lord,
Shoot up the club.
yard.
Mom's like, I know. I lived a life. A good one, good one, good one. Mom lived a good life. Good life.
Okay, mom, you get what I'm saying. But you can do a lot with your physicality early on. It's also, in your early 20s, your teens, 20s, early 30s, that's when you're also, establishing your place in society, whether it's where you work, the partner you're going to choose to live with, where you're going to live in the world. So you need to have a little bit of that, rah-rah type of strength. But at some point, you want to reprioritize that into other systems. So the body does something called sarcopenia. And what that is, it's starting to say we need less of this, and maybe it's a little more focused on digestive system or bone density or other systems of the body. But now if I'm taking a drug that quiets my hunger cues and I'm not taking enough food, I'm accelerating that pace. And that's what I said a little earlier with goal setting. What is it about your weight loss or composition change? Is it you being more active or having more energy or going out and hanging out with friends or joining a basketball league or playing soccer again? If that's the case, just simply losing weight may not be a good thing for you. You may not feel strong. You may open yourself up to more injuries. You may actually throw off some of things that are coming down the line, like pre and postmenopausal, changes in your body. So there's a lot that goes with it. Again, though, just like finances, just like family, it's specific to the person who's dealing with it.
Right. It's nuanced. So give me a scenario where it's good to use Ozempic or like a good case use.
Semaglutide,
Or
man.
semaglutide.
Sure. You got an Ozempic banner with some checks coming.
Part two coming. You don't know. And give me a
that check.
We'll see about that. We'll see about that. You see Nsuani driving a Lambo, you already know what happened.
Big
so give me a positive case scenario where someone could be using that, where it would be good for them, and then talk to me about the negative side effects, because I don't think that part is very loud out there in society right now.
Yeah, so I would say if somebody who medically is at risk due to obesity.
Okay.
right? So we're talking about, issues with type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, heart disease, even some forms of cancer can be linked to obesity. So if that's showing up in your screening, if that's showing up in your blood work, and that's what your doctor is talking to you about, it's time to make some changes. Now, that same person, if they tried, diet and exercise, um, whatever strategies were available to them, and it's not working, I much rather see someone take a semi-glutide than something like a lap band. I don't know if a lap band or gastric bypass sometimes is actual intervention in your stomach or your digestive system where they close down parts of it. I think that is much more dangerous, and I would definitely suggest a semi-glutide instead of that. But the same conversation comes back to, okay, now we have this advantage. What are we doing with it? Are we just going to McDonald's? Are we not still trying some of the things that maybe didn't have the impact as before?
Right.
It's always going back to the habits, right? And I think of the same thing even like when I have a headache. I don't like taking medication, but if I have a headache, that's my body's cue that something is not optimal.
Something's off.
Hydration, sleep, stress, tension in the body, nutrition. If it's bad enough, yes, I will take an Advil or whatever works nowadays, but I'm still going to go back and address those root causes, right? Am I drinking enough water? Now that I have a little relief, am I eating and sleeping? So sometimes you need a bit of that kickstart
Right.
just to get you on the right track, but then please go back to those habits.
Right.
Yeah.
Negative. Never.
Negative. Yeah, again, in my space and my scope, I'm just seeing mostly the hunger issues. So people not eating
At
right?
all.
It's not that they're not eating at all. It's just if you take the average person at this stage of life in our careers, are they like relaxed and cool, or are they pretty demanding?
Pretty demanding.
Pretty demanding. I don't know how many parents you have in the room, but if you have little ones running around or any type of guardians, even down to like pets, is that an easy job or is that pretty demanding? Right. Raise your hand if you ever missed a meal. Guys with the muscles in the back, like never. He's got beef jerky in his pocket back there. But he's also 26, 27, right? But as life goes along, you tend to eat. You say you're going to go, let me take one more call, right? Let me just give a little more attention to that client. The next thing you miss lunch or you have late dinner. And then, you compound that with what I said with sarcopenia. Now, all of a sudden, those cues that you've already been pushing back, pretty much what I've noticed is pretty much when that career starts taking off, it actually can happen earlier depending how demanding your post-secondary schedule is. But it's when you enter the workforce and you're trying to prove yourself and, the bosses go for lunch, but I'm going to stay here and grind, right? Everyone's going for dinner, but I'm going to keep on pushing that hustle culture, right? Then all of a sudden you take that into family. So now you have these little demons taking more time from you.
Demons, yeah.
Right? And then now you've created a pattern of where you've already quieted those hunger cues. And now you're taking a medication which a potential side effect could be nullifying hunger cues, right?
Right.
I have heard of other side effects, like complications with other medications,
Right.
but I wouldn't be able to speak on those with as much personal experience.
Okay. So no semi-glutides.
It's case by case. Cool. always trying to get me to say something absolute. So you can put me on BuzzFeed or something. Did you hear what he said?
Wait, we're just getting started. Any baddies in the room? Baddies? Yeah. I see the light skinned brother over there. He's like, I'm a light skinned baddie.
The switch.
Yo, for real, I actually tried.
Switch.
So on a totally separate note, I actually did like live stand up once. It was scary but fun at the same time. So every now and then I try to test my skills. So let's talk about IG fitness influencers and baddies.
I see where you went with it. It's making sense now.
So IG fitness influence and baddies, they look good, but are they healthy? Have we entered the era where the blind are leading the blind?
Yes.
I didn't even finish the question.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
No. Sorry, you go ahead. Let me get the full.
Meaning, are we being misled or misinformed into trying to obtain unrealistic shapes and body sizes?
Yes. I think the gift and the curse of social media. First of all, the gift is everybody has a voice, and I would not have been able to build the career I've built now and have the impact that I've had without social media. The downside is everybody has a voice, and it's not just a voice where we're being attracted or pulled to what is the most appealing, or also what could be the most truthful, whatever truth means to you. Truth to me is, it's fluid, right? We're also being like engineered with the algorithm to say this is what beauty is, or this is what you should be looking at. So it's not like it's a true democracy of information where it was in the beginning. Like, I started Facebook when you needed a college email to get on there. That's when I jumped on. Like, if you weren't in edu.edu, you couldn't get on Facebook. So when you're scrolling, you were just scrolling everything. There was no prioritization of post or trending or any of that stuff. Long time past then. So what I'm basically saying is, we're being often told what is popular or what is appealing. And I think the danger with that is it's always going to be flippant to like the masses. So when I see a lot of things on IG, and I don't know what happened to my Explorer feed, but I can't get it back now. It's for the streets now. Like, it's just, I try to leave it for a while. I say, no, I don't like this. No, I don't like this. And every time I go back to it, it's just craziness, right? We're seeing a lot of modifications, whether it's plastic surgery or manipulation of photos, and it's giving us this idea like this is what beauty is. Now, from a functional standpoint, there are certain things in the body that we should be striving for, and actually lead back to the origins of beauty. First of all, like symmetry. Symmetry is what the eye notices when we say someone is appealing, right? And whether that's symmetry of your face, symmetry of your body, it comes in all shapes and forms, but that's what we start to think about on a subconscious level when we say, oh, that looks good to me, right? If we're talking about functional strength and how your body should operate, well, the source code, I believe from above, was perfect in our design. So, we will have certain parts of our body that are a little more muscular. Our legs, our glutes, our shoulders, our pecs. That's just based on the function of the body. Quick education here. If you look at your ankles and your wrist, at the extremities, they work exactly the same. They're mirrored joints. They're called condyloids. If you move up to your elbow and your knee, it's the exact same joint. It's called a hinge. Your shoulder and your hip is the same joint. Anyone know what that is? Ball and socket. Very good. We can go into the details of the spine. We have a specific design for our body, from the skeletal framework to connective tissue to muscle. And I'm only saying that because we're all different shapes and sizes, but some things are meant by design. What we're seeing now is exaggeration of these things, whether it's glutes.
Let's talk about that.
Mom's in the building. Mom is in the building.
Let's talk about the glutes. Elaborate on that, please.
Yeah, like,
Please do.
A person should have strong glutes. Do they?
Because here's where I'm going.
Yes,
I remember you're
go
talking about
first.
back in the day.
You go first.
Because you're talking about back in the day. I remember this, like Facebook and all that. I remember there was a time where all the leg machines were open.
Yes.
Now, bro, there's like a waiting list to get on a leg machine.
And then that's sometimes when you take the benefit of the curse. So yes, we're definitely a little more focused on legs than we have been, which is good. Again, you need a strong base of support, especially when it comes to functionality. But some of the shapes that we're aiming for through modification, it's caricaturish, right? And it's not healthy. So if you're putting a foreign agent into your body, you can assure there's going to be some sort of downside.
So give me an example of a foreign agent in this case. You see what I'm trying to do here, guys?
This
He's
boy's
trying to
get me.
He's trying to skirt around it.
I'm skirting like.
What do
it's
you
on
mean?
ice.
Are you talking about? I'm just gonna ask you. Are you talking about ass shots?
I am. Yeah.
Is that a foreign agent?
Yeah, that's a foreign agent.
Okay.
And I've worked with several clients that they're dealing with the fallout of that. First
Really?
of all, if you never had surgery, don't. Right? Like, I've had 4 surgeries. None of them I would do again. They were because I had to do them. And whenever you go into your body, it's never the same again. Especially if you're cutting through muscle, connective tissue, even skin. When you have scarring, it's going to change the way something shapes. If you're putting a foreign agent in, like a filler or a saline, that is a downside to that as well. And, the body is always trying to move things away that it's not natural. So what I see, and again, I'm only going to speak for my scope, so please, when this airs, don't come for me in the comments.
Please do.
I see a lot of clients having issue with scar tissue.
Yeah.
No one really says it, but you can make some connections to autoimmune issues. You can make issues to like chronic fatigue, because imagine your body's working hard to adjust to something foreign in your body every single day while you still need to breathe and digest and sleep and do all the things everyone else is doing, right? Same thing goes for augmentations. And I'm just, mind you, we're talking females here because most of clients in my space are females, but men are doing this as well too. So I always go back and say, like, why? Like, what was the thought process? What was the goal when you want to do these things? Is it appealing? Great. Go back and really ask yourself what actually is appealing, and when did you last feel good about your body? And I'm almost positive it's more about function than anything else. Because let's be honest here, men, you look in the mirror sometimes, you're like, oh man, shirt's getting a little baggy. I'm starting to see my collarbone. You go to the gym one time, come back, you feel good. I'm good. I'm back. You didn't go nowhere. You didn't go nowhere. But the psychology, whether it's the neurological awareness of the exercise that you did, the blood flow in the area, or the simple fact you did something useful with your body, you feel good, don't you? Ladies, oh, this skirt don't fit me like I used to. Couple squats, couple kickbacks, you're feeling good again, right? So if we're thinking about our body from the original design and we focus on the function, I find you're going to be far more content. When we chase output-based solutions, especially ones that have intervention with foreign agents, I'm really politicking my way around this. On the backside, you're probably going to find some issues. I'm dealing with a lot of clients now when they're in their 40s and 50s. The augmentations they had in their 20s are very painful, especially in the pectoral area. Pressure on the neck leads to headaches. Again, I'm not intelligent enough, nor do I have enough access to data to draw the conclusions.
Right.
But you can start seeing, okay, some things are on the rise, autoimmune issues on the rise, chronic issues on the rise. You can kind of start seeing some similarities there. And yeah, I hope we just swing back to a way where we just appreciate our bodies in all form. I think we are, though.
Yeah, because I heard a phraseology the other day about '90s beauty or '90s. You guys know what I'm talking about? You guys never heard about that? Like this kind of more of this natural look in the '90s. What? '90s fine. Y'all ever heard that before? It's like that's like a thing that's coming back.
We go in cycles, right? And I think we swing. And I think when we swing, it's because we've gone too far. So at one point, I don't know if you're old enough to remember the heroin chic era. That's when everybody was like, let's try to be emaciated. Let's be as skinny as possible, right? And then that gave way to, I think, where we are now, which is like, okay, I like the strength of my legs. I like a little size, but let's go way the other way. And I think we'll always find a way back in the middle. But I look forward to when we say, how do I feel? How do I move? What's my mental health like? Like, if that is the standard, I think we'll be okay.
Got it. Okay, so as my last question here, Nsuani, if you could leave all of us in this room here today with only one piece of advice as it pertains to our health and fitness, a one call to action, what would that be?
Good question, Corey. Everyone needs a strategy. The same way you have a strategy for your money, the same way you have a strategy for your household. Hopefully, you're looking at a strategy for your mental health, whether that's through therapy or social, interaction and groupings. You have to have a strategy for your health, and this vessel is yours. Um, as I spoke about some of my experiences, I would actually just came to me now. An experience that I had, an unfortunate experience that really shaped my life was when I was 17. I watched someone pass away, like right in front of me. I don't know if this ever happened to anybody before, but I remember when it happened. I just knew in that moment, like life had left this person's body. And the scenario in which it happened, no one knew, and we didn't find out actually till later. But I knew deep down inside that the physical body is still there, but something is very different with that person. And I reference that because if we think about this vessel that we've been given, it's only here for a short period of time, right? When I realized I was middle-aged a couple of years ago when I hit 42, that really bummed me out. And I did the math, and I was like, oh, no, wait, I am middle-aged. But you have a responsibility to learn about it. You have a responsibility to take care of it while it's here, while you're renting it. And it same way you take care of your car, you take care of your nice clothes, take care of your house, you should find out things about it and be curious. So a lot of that is self-discovery. Take some time to read and research, but most importantly, connect with people who are on that journey, whether it's a professional. You don't have to be a client of it. I know sometimes there's barriers to time and finances that get in the way, but if you meet any fitness professional, any wellness professional worth their money, they want to talk to you for free anyway. They don't shut up anyway, right? So just connect and ask questions. If you see somebody on the way and moving along their journey, don't go into that headspace of, oh, it's because of, oh, well, like just look what they're doing and say, hey, how can I get something from that? And just keep revisiting, because the body you have today is not the body you have tomorrow. It won't be the body you have in the future. But the great part about it, it's always changing. It's always dynamic, and you're always finding things out about it. And if we can get as curious as we are about, our households, as I mentioned, our vehicles, our portfolios, then all that other stuff is just going to be reciprocating in terms of its growth, right? So, be curious. That's the most important thing I could say.
Love it. Did y'all find that useful, informative, thoughtful? Man of knowledge, Professor Baffoe. I'm gonna start calling you that. So, guys, this concludes this episode of 3 Questions with Corey Kareem. For those of you that don't know how I end each episode, I usually end it by saying this. Sometimes you don't need to learn or see anything new. You just need to hear that somebody else has gone through it too. So with that being said, Nsuani and myself are out. Peace and love. Till the next time. Amen.